Group D owns a building in the heart of Gyeongsam-dong, the Gangnam district. These professional gamers' training room was on the very top floor. In a game called Roar, this team was ranked first, and they were currently engaged in combat with a player known as Dex. Now that the game has officially begun, these characters were welcomed on the battle rift in the game. They will be fighting against a single man, an enigmatic player going by the name of Dex. This player had long been coveted by the professional players, and they now desired to impart a lesson to him. Their avatars raced in the direction of Dex. However, this guy remained calm and launched a straightforward counterattack. This guy's character was already over after just one move. The other four became frightened. They find it unbelievable that their leader was taken down so quickly. This assassin began to hide his presence and work his spell, but Dex found his place right away. Dex stopped the assassin's attempt. Afterwards, he launched another counterattack and vanquished the assassin. Now gone were their primary damage dealer and tank. Before they could reach their new formation, Dex resumed his attacks, and they were all crushed as a result. One lone player destroyed these so-called professional players. They had lost their standing as the best team in this match. This guy was the one who is currently at the top, a person going by Dex. He destroyed every opponent he faced, all by himself. And now everyone on the team was curious about his true identity. Our hero turned out to be just a regular kid having fun in front of his computer. Young was his name. Dan was his nickname. Dan, player D, Q, wordy 123, solo play. And he had used these additional 100 Ajins. But as of right now, he goes by the moniker Dex. He didn't really think much of his Ajin, since becoming the top player in every game he had been playing was his primary objective. And he just beat the professional players to reclaim the top spot. His name was the first to appear, and since he had already accomplished his objective, Dex took action. The players in the game were shocked by this, especially the professional players. Until the very end, they believed that Dex was making fun of them. The top player in this game gave up after reaching the highest rank. A delivery truck was en route to deliver a package the following day. The staff members were still discussing about Dex and how he made fun of everyone. Being a supporter of the professional team that Dex decimated, the man occupying the passenger seat continued to be irritated. The number of computer game players in this world was gradually declining, and there was just one explanation. It's a game known as Arcadia. 3 of the top businesses in the world, Ajin Electronics, Silicorp and Argos Corporation collaborated to develop a new game behind closed doors, and computers could not play the newest online game. Gamers would need to use a device known as Dreamer to log in. This was the first virtual reality device ever made. Everyone enters Arcadia to discover a brand new world full of limitless opportunities. Their mascot was this girl, and she appeared in all of their ads. A while back, this truck was on its way to deliver the final Dreamer. However, the address led them to this dilapidated house, which confused them. There were even a few cracks in the window. Our main character was inside this house, happy that he could now play this game at last. He then instantly signed into his account to resume playing the previous game. The strongest character in the game was going to be eliminated. And our hero took action without even thinking twice, since he has a new journey ahead of him right now. Young had signed into Arcadia formally, and he was ecstatic to see a new world that he will one day rule. In our world, countless numbers of games have been developed, and some of them had features that were hidden in plain sight by the developers. They might be a few straightforward jokes or antics, or there might even be some power-ups that have the ability to ruin the entire game. Easter eggs was a common name for these items, and now this man had also hidden something in Arcadia. He entrusted Alice, an artificial intelligence, with this covert mission. To find the next bard for this game was their main objective. Through the use of a device that is connected to the user's brain, virtual reality technology simulates the senses. The Dreamer machine made it possible for this to happen. People are able to live new lives in new worlds as a result. At last, our hero had logged on and was now in the Arcadia universe. There were a lot of people playing this game, which left him feeling very overwhelmed. He began to check all the usual things, such as his status window. Young had reverted to his previous name of Dex and was back at level 1. He complimented the game's interface for being simple enough. Along with that, he got his first beginner quest, which required him to get rid of a slime. The weakest and most rudimentary monster in the game was this one. Because it was a virtual reality game, players had to modify how they moved in order to move correctly, and through the application of skills, the game provided them with some help. Our hero, on the other hand, required no help at all. His abilities were exceptional, and he quickly understood the fundamentals. With ease, Dex had dispatched his first slime. This implied that his quest was over as well. A new quest then materialized, and he had to read $100 for this one. It perplexed our hero. He believed that the current state of this game was embarrassing. However, due to his addiction to games, this man went to the library to finish it. These two girls were in charge of the Edeline Public Library. The person with purple hair had a keen interest in something. She turned to face Dex, who had been reading nonstop for days. She clarified that this was actually an unusual situation, as most people would just peruse the books without really understanding them. But as of right now, someone has given this quest some serious thought and invested some time. The other woman believed that Dex would eventually give up. But after that, he came up to her and asked to read the book's sequel. This was the first time someone had requested the book's sequel, so the woman was taken aback. This indicated that he was correctly reading them. Dex said he wanted to learn more about this book because he thought it had some interesting parts. The title of this book was History of Arcadia, the first indication at Edeline. When the woman heard this, she lost her words. She brought up the book that Dex had requested right away. Our NC thanked her as well. This book was covered in these unique markings. Then, Dex questioned her about why this book and its prequel were kept secret from each other. She revealed that this book was only given to those who asked for it when her expression toward Dex changed. Returning to his seat, Dex was about to open this book when he felt something strange. She noticed something at the game's main control center, which was run by this artificial intelligence. There was a hidden quest that was unlocked by a unique event. The character in question was none other than RNC, who set this off. There was a renowned explorer featured in the book. He concealed a treasure in the beginner town by the lake, Eldine. Although many people had conjectured about the nature of this treasure, nobody had ever been able to locate it. However, one thing was certain. There was the first hint of darkness in this treasure. Ezreal, the fabled explorer, left it beneath the lake. After reading this passage, Dex became intrigued. There was only one lake in the beginner town where he looked for it. It is known as Arun Lake. After a while, RNCC visited this location. He merely stood there, gazing out into the lake. Now he wondered how this serene lake would hold the piece of darkness. However, just as he was about to give up, several notifications appeared. Just by entering this lake, Dex, who was only at level 1, triggered another quest. The quest rank for this one is B+. These alerts had nearly rendered RNC blind. Dex was given this official mission, discovering the remnants of darkness. The fact that this quest was too difficult for him perplexed him, but he felt excited all of a sudden rather than scared. And then something began to glow purple beneath the lake. Its base was occupied by this figure, and it was in use with a foreboding atmosphere surrounding it. Upon accepting the mission, Dex made the decision to first survey the area. However, he didn't discover anything unusual. The lake itself was the only location left to explore. He got ready for this assignment. Then, RNC jumped straight into the water. He was pretty taken aback by how deep this lake was for its size. He was unable to even see the lake's bottom. Meanwhile, at the Korean branch of Arcadia, the primary scenario had already been uncovered, which was why all of these people were in a panic. The general manager of the Arcadia Korean branch was this man, Kwon Munghan. Their server was only a week old, so this already happened, which made him very anxious. According to his henchman, a player had uncovered a feature that had the potential to completely upend the game. But he made the decision to inform his boss of the situation first because they are also unaware of the true circumstances. These guys will now return to their jobs following the meeting. Munghan likened the development of the Korean server to that of the United States, where the primary situation was identified only 3 months later. Brewing the Forgotten Darkness was the name of the main scenario. He continued to try to get the item below the lake when he returned to RNCC. His diving ability had already advanced to the B rank, and it had also given him more energy. Dex hadn't yet seen the bottom despite being 200 meters down the lake. He was now considering giving up on this. Typically, players would advance the game by leveling up and taking the initiative. However, this was the exact opposite of what he was doing at the moment. Given that the capsule required a $920,000 monthly payment, Dex was also in a hurry. That's currently about $700 US. He had planned to sell the stuff he would obtain in the game to cover this cost. However, if he persisted in his quest, it's possible that he wouldn't even meet his monthly income target of at least $1 million. As he gazed at these words, Dex, a die-hard gamer at heart, realized that he had to take action. He was the only one with access to this quest that had already set him apart from the other players. He has now made the decision to keep looking for this misplaced object. Meanwhile, this woman was dozing off on her bed at the Silicon Valley Silicorp headquarters. She was 15-year-old Jenica Paul, the spokesperson for Silicorp. As soon as she learned something, she awoke. Jenica verified whether the primary scenario had indeed been initiated by the Korean server. That was actually the case, the man on the other end of her screen informed her. Now she was wondering why the game's creator would abandon something so significant in the town of beginners. She was irritated by the one man who performed this action. Jenica then looked up more details about this item in the database. She discovered this. The Bard of Anarchy is the name of the hidden class. She pondered whether someone could actually win the game with this class as she read the description. This class was later found to possess a unique ability despite lacking both attack and leveling concepts. Jennifer kept browsing the database, and when she learned about this unique talent, she began to shake. Her scream echoed throughout the structure. It was already 10 days when they returned to Arcadia. This pendant was in the hand of someone who had come out of the lake. Dex attained the special item at last. His relentless pursuit of this resulted in his diving skill reaching a rank. He also finished his mission, which was to find the remnants of darkness. As a reward, he received a necklace known as the Black Necklace. The system warned Dex not to use this item without giving it careful thought because it contains these ancient powers, and in light of the reminder, he was now debating whether or not to use this. Next, the system inquired about RMC's choice, and he naturally decided to use it out of curiosity. But then he was perplexed by another question that came up. This continued to go on and on and on. Dex was becoming increasingly irritated with the system's frequent alerts. Finally, after some time, the message from the system changed to sound more human. It turns out that another man was in charge of these messages, and his amusement at Dex's persistence was apparent. This person hoped that, similar to what he was doing at the moment, Dex could also completely upend the world of Arcadia. Dex was on the verge of inquiring about the man's identity. However, a light suddenly materialized before him. There was a notification that his class had been changed to Bard of Anarchy. As a result, the leveling system was eliminated and Dex gained the new stat known as plausibility. Along with a new character linked to him as a player, a mission system was also added to his status window. Dex received a new mission at the Edeline Western Grassland. These gamers were preoccupied with finding these slimes. One of the players used his powers to charge his fist, killing the monster. The slime dropped a slime bill, which made him happy as well. This item was worth 50 bronze, which made his companion envious. Despite the fact that they have a mock exam the following week, this inspired him to work even harder. However, someone was observing them from a distance. Dex was wondering if the system truly intended for him to murder these children. Dex attempted to remove his character an hour ago, but he was unsuccessful. The regime prohibited him. He instantly regretted switching to this hidden class, and for a very straightforward reason. Dex discovered that a Bard of the Anarchy class will not permit him to advance in his character. In every game, the most fundamental mechanic was leveling up. This is what drives players' advancement, and without it, a character can't even get stronger. Although Dex anticipated that this would not have a significant effect on him early in the game, it will undoubtedly have an effect later on. It might put him at a disadvantage compared to those skilled players. The mere thought of it depleted his hope. The man who had spoken to him prior to his acceptance of the hidden class then came back to him. He believed that they were genuinely attempting to stop him and that all of those notifications were extremely important. Dex quickly stopped trying to solve this intractable issue. He reasoned that he would have to accept it since there was nothing he could do about it. He now anticipates using this hidden class in the future. Once he came to terms with his fate, he attempted to look up more details about this class and discovered a new statistic known as plausibility. This statistic has the power to affect the things that exist in this world. It could bending the rules with ease. The stats will also vanish forever after they are used. Dex read this and became very confused. That's when the quest pertaining to this class was given to him. He must eliminate the novices who haven't yet changed occupations, and he was currently confined to spying on these children. This quest has a 7-day time limit. He was still hesitant to complete this quest since he thought it would make the game unfun for the kids. But he was stuck with no option. All he was doing was trying to play the game too. Dex was going to run in their direction. But something took place. These 3 guys were the ones who had already been attacked. They informed the newcomers that they were the landowners and that they were not permitted to hunt there. At this point, our MC was unsure of these players' identities. The claim to this hunting ground was illogical. The woman attempted to uphold their rights. This location was actually open to all novices. However, this older guy cut her off in her tracks. Now, this crazy monkey player was posing a threat to them. This one saw that his name was already red when they looked at it. This indicated how many other players this player had killed. The fact that the other guy had told her that he could easily find out who she really was making this woman start to shake. It's going to get worse. He now ordered them to get lost. This woman began yelling for assistance. However, every other player in their vicinity simply hid there and did nothing. The man then plucked up the courage to approach these guys. He explained to them that since it was only a game, everyone should have fun. These guys were dumbfounded by this statement, but they burst out laughing. After that, Crazy Monkey began explaining the game's real-world component. This was the reality. Power was determining everything. Then someone confirmed what Crazy Monkey had said. However, an attack followed, and the Crazy Monkey became its companion. It was Dex, and he was kicking himself for not finishing this one with a single blow. He then kept cutting toward this group, and they were vanquished right away. The color of his in-game name began to change to red as well. Our hero was only getting started on his adventure within Arcadia. He received 1 plausibility point for each of these players after killing them. Although Dex is still learning how to use this stat, he anticipated that it would be difficult for him to accrue more points. A voice then said, "Thank you," to him. It came from these 2 novices, who asked our hero how they could give him back. Then, Dex warned them not to express gratitude because he would return the favor. These 2 players were shot. He added that since this was only a game, they shouldn't hold their anger against him too deep. This guy noticed it on Dex's face, but before he could respond, he was slapped. After gaining 2 more plausibility points, Dex was going to search for more, particularly those who were merely observing the scene. When they heard about Dex, these people stopped in their tracks. Several screams emanating from the hunting grounds then followed it. On the same day, a rumor began to circulate on Arcadia's homepage. Each newcomer made the same statement. Later that night, the true insane person made an appearance. As it was skulking in the shadows, the owl noticed the man who was fleeing for his life. He had already started crying and pleading for help when he stumbled over this rock. This player was hurt and received a status ailment. This made him move more slowly. Then he looked back to make sure of something. He could already see red eyes catching up to him. A man wearing this dark cloak approached him at a leisurely pace. Our hero was there, and he had this ominous look on his face. Then, this guy attempted to approach Dex. He informed him that there was no cause for his death, but Dex was on the verge of drawing his sword. Our hero was about to lose it when this guy began telling him that he would report Dex's actions to the game management so they could punish him. He then gave this player 1 clearance. He was forced to act in this way by the game itself. The player became perplexed by this and was split in 2. Dex received an additional point as a result. He had been removing players all day, and now he was finally tired. There is a penalty in the Arcadia game for every player death, which prevents them from logging in for a full day. This was put in place to stop people from becoming dependent on the game. But many players were currently requesting that this penalty be lifted. The same issue was now generating a lot of calls for Arcadia's customer service response department. When the general manager observed this, he discovered that it had to do with PKs occurring within the game. He became irritated because 1 player had now created another issue, and they were still preoccupied with dealing with the main scenario issue. It was also verified that the entire department worked overtime tonight due to this incident. This was our MC's current status window in the interim. 1,025 players have already been killed. He accomplished this after 2 days of non-stop playing. X's body had already reached its breaking point, and his emotions were further damaged by the constant yelling and begging. Now that he's thrown the game off course, he questions whether this quest was actually necessary. He continued to ponder why he had been given this mission in the first place. However, at this moment, Dex felt that he truly wasn't worth bothering. Additionally, he heard some sounds approaching him. From these slimes, that is. These people expressed gratitude to our hero for saving them from players who were killing them. This strengthened Dex's bond with the slime race. Additionally, the slimes encircled Dex and showered him with affection. Dex was pleased that his efforts had not gone unnoticed. It was beneficial to these slimes, but as he was enjoying himself with these creatures, they heard it once more. There were also flames. Dex was aware of this. After that, he bid his slime friends farewell. It turns out that this group of players' torches were the source of the flames. This guy saw Dex and stopped walking. Then he gave the order for everyone to pursue this man, and Dex kept running away. He was about to leave the forest when he came to a cliff at the end of the trail, which cornered him. This guy was beginning to brag about having finally apprehended the criminal. Dex just grinned and didn't even bat an eyelid. This guy deliberately leaped over the edge of the precipice. He was falling freely now. This guy thought the player was completely insane, but while Dex was still falling, he took an unexpected action. He left the game with a heft. Following this incident, numerous videos began to circulate on Mube. It displayed the actions taken by our hero. Because the majority of them were killed in the process, the comments section went crazy as well. When the guy that Dex had killed began to watch his movements, he discovered that Dex was simply constantly in the vicinity of the slime hunting grounds. This led him to believe that perhaps the enigmatic player was simply a low level. He devised a scheme to exact his retribution as well. He'll get stronger and assemble a group to take on this player. People gathered in this plaza the following day. Their leader, a guy with green hair, welcomed and thanked each and every player for coming. Their primary goal was to track down the player who had been killing all of the newbies for a while. This incident served as a reminder to all players that the scenarios they had created served as the basis for the game Arcadia. Eventually, everything that was taking place in this world would give rise to a new tale. Dallas, an AI, was in charge of this procedure, and as of right now, this AI has identified the personal mission that the victims of Dex had created. She then made these people an official quest. They all received the notification. Catch the Beginner Serial Killer was the name of this quest. They must apprehend this enigmatic player who has been giving them all trouble. This quest's appearance put the Korean branch under red alert once more. They had no idea that a quest had been made for them, so now they were in a panic. This man, Kang Tahoon, was berating his team for what he considered to be a lighthearted handling of the situation. The team was limited to accepting responsibility. Simply waiting for the analysis to be finished would suffice. The fact that the higher-ups were involved indicated that this was an urgent situation. And shortly after, a worker entered and informed his supervisor that this had something to do with the primary mission. The player had already been able to begin the main scenario just 2 days after discovering the clue. There is a significant disparity between this production phase and the start phase. The process of planting this seed is comparable to the production phase, and as soon as it takes in enough nutrients, it will begin to grow and blossom. This marked the beginning, and it would typically take months. However, in this case, these 2 stages were initiated in a span of 2 days. Since their estimate was entirely inaccurate, the director proceeded to analyze the data. Then he came upon this video of a novice murderer. He discovered that at the slime hunting colony, one player had been killing all the other newcomers, and this individual was the same one who was somewhat connected to the primary plot. The team attempted to run some background checks on this player already, but the headquarters had already blocked their access. This guy was now curious about the player's identity because the main headquarters had even shielded him. He noticed something as he continued to peruse the data. In just 2 days, the director saw that this player had already killed 1,025 players. This culprit, meantime, was simply dozing off. Finally, after a short while, Dex awoke. When he turned on his computer, the game itself had made this banner. This was a unique occasion designed to track down the novice killer. He recognized at once that this was personal to him. There were an astounding 2,000 comments on this post. Dex thought this was too annoying right away. He was already considering calling the quest to a close. However, he recalled that he still needed to pay for this capsule's installments. He resumed his game session and contemplated his next move. Dex was surprised that the game would actually produce a quest of this nature. He was still at the slime colony hunting grounds at the moment. Because of the incidents, players have ceased to visit this location. Our MC was about to consider searching other areas when he heard something. The slime appeared to be communicating something. These newbies were hunting not too far from where he was. As it happens, they have been searching for the slime that drew Dex's interest. Immediately, these 2 players warned Dex not to take the slime. Dex just stood there, staring at this creature, and after that he made a decision. He approached these players at a leisurely pace. One of them noticed something familiar about Dex's features, and this image struck an image when he had donned his cloak even more. This player even threatened Dex without even realizing who he was. Main character grinned. He screamed out of the blue and threw himself to reveal this guy's name. Dex pretended to be a novice killer while acting out the other player, and these players' eyes reddened upon hearing this. Their thoughts were already turning to the prizes they would receive upon finishing the unique mission. This one was going to give his explanation. However, Dex and the slime had already started to flee. Since every player in the vicinity was pursuing the other guy, it was also too late for an explanation. This cliff was now their prison. The person who believed that Dex's picture was well known recalled the Mew video. They had been skillfully framed by our MC. After that, they managed to get away, which made Dex happy now. The slime trailed after him and expressed gratitude. Additionally, Dex's affinity with its race grew as a result of saving another one. He was given the moniker Friend of Slimes. He reasoned that this was because he had killed a great deal of novices, making it impossible for them to hunt slimes in these areas. X believed that this situation would not aid in his game progress, but after that, more alerts appeared. He met the bare minimum of credibility requirements. This implied that he could use the plausibility stats to aid the slimes because of his strong relationship with them. These were the slime's current statistics. They had just reached level 1. Below the status window, he could also see the plausibility stat. Dex attempted to take in this information, and after that he grinned evilly. He thought this game was really fun, so much so that he started screaming. When main character attempted to use the creature's stats, a bright light was produced. It was successful. He was asked by the system if he would actually implement these changes. Naturally, main character said yes. This was the Bard of Anarchy, the hidden class's power. A massive beam of light descended from the sky, and this message appeared. The slime race's fundamental statistics have been modified. Now that they had reached level 15, they had a strong aura surrounding them. The players were always the ones hunting monsters in every game. They were constantly involved in every role-playing game, and each player who was about to embark on their adventure required a means of putting their abilities to the test. They were referred to as tutorial monsters a lot, and these adorable and harmless creatures known as slimes were the most infamous monster in every game that players had ever played. But what if the game's weakest monsters all of a sudden became stronger, making it impossible for new players to hunt them? Many tutorials explaining how to hunt these ones were being posted on the YouTube video streaming website. There were even videos that chronicled the player's rise to fame. but the viewers were drawn to this particular video. While the player was logging into the game, the video began. The creature was quite taken aback by the game's graphics. He began surveying his surroundings and eventually came upon this adorable-looking slime. Its creator was going to murder it, but after that, something took place. Abruptly, the slime raced in his direction, and the video came to an end after a short while. He has another 24 hours before he can log in because the creator passed away, and as a result, his video went viral. The common areas were in disarray as well, having met the same end. This resulted from applying 1,025 plausible points to the game's weakest monster, and it completely destroyed the experience for those who are new to this game. This once innocent-looking monster had changed. Even novices are unable to harm them. Our MC, meantime, was idling around and observing these newcomers. He believed that this was a truly absurd notion. If a player is not attacked, slimes typically won't attack them. They were far too docile. However, at this moment, they have evolved into more hostile creatures. X speculated that perhaps its traits evolved as he advanced them in level. This was a plausible power. It might alter how the game normally plays out. And Dex was beginning to understand the stat's power. Additionally, he saw these guys who had sent him on a unique hunting quest. Now, this guy with green hair was screaming because the slimes were overwhelming them already. The one in front of him leaped, and he was too late to respond. Then, there was a massive explosion nearby. Now, the once harmless slimes had transformed into actual monsters. This stronger slime dealt a fatal blow to the guy with green hair. Now these ones were in ruins. They attempted to flee, but more slimes entered. As the players were being killed by the slimes, Dex's plausibility increased. It was this feature that satisfied him. After a span of 2 hours, S plausibility points had increased to 3,924. This exceeded by a large margin the points he had accrued over the previous 2 days. All of the work was being done for him by the slimes, and as of right now, 4,949 bodies have been counted, and he still has 4 days or so left on this quest. Although Dex considered fortifying the slimes even further, the system informed him that this was their maximum potential. He was pretty let down to learn this. However, this was still a much better option than nothing. Aside from that, he now has these adorable little ones with him. They gained confidence from RMC when he said he would be depending on these slimes. Meanwhile, the general manager of this branch was already very irate at the Korean branch. He was now requesting game reports from his team. This guy claimed that the slime's stats were abruptly increased at precisely 1,320 hours, costing them many novice deaths. They haven't heard anything from the headquarters, and this incident is still ongoing at the moment. The director inquired as to how powerful these slimes got, and this man disclosed that they had increased their strength tenfold. The boss was viewed as somewhat scary by all of the staff. He was somewhat shocked when he gave some thought to the information that had been provided to him. He inquired with his staff about the basic HP of the beginner player. It was precisely 100 horsepower, which could only indicate one thing. These slimes could take out a beginner player at level 1 in just one shot. Without further ado, the boss left the room. He believed that Arcadia wouldn't make a mistake like this, so he felt the need to verify these himself right away. The boss went into the capsule-containing room. He is going to log into the game to make his own assessment. He was given level 3 administrator access by the system right away. After being brought to this chamber, the director faced the artificial intelligence in charge of managing every aspect of the game. Alice simply looked at him. Meanwhile, Dex had arrived at the novice hunting area. He was already perplexed as to why there were no players present. This was where his personal quest stood right now. With 2 days remaining, he has already eliminated 9,640 players. He reasoned that the kill count may have slowed down because the rumors may have already spread. Because they could earn experience points here, more elite players began to visit as well. It was difficult for the slimes to defend themselves. Dex believed that at this moment, there was not much he could do to address this. The amount of players dying merely decreased but did not end entirely, and eventually it got to 10,000. He then received an achievement from the system for eliminating 10,000 players. He was given the moniker Beginner Killer. He received an intermediate reward as well for this accomplishment. Upon seeing this, Dex was delighted and gladly accepted the prize. Suddenly, there was a black lightning in front of him. Because of the dazzling effects this reward had, he wondered if it was really a trap. Then something dropped to reveal a black orb in front of him. Our MC speculated that this might be a reward. It appeared more like an egg. Some cracks appeared in this black object, and it opened after a few more seconds. The system informed Dex that the reward had been successfully sent to him, and it felt somewhat recognizable. This ominous-looking creature asked Dex who he was, and at that moment, our MC was ecstatic to see his newest familiar. It was letting go of the tremendous pressure surrounding it. X stopped grinning after reading what he had read. This one was a monarch of chaos, according to the name above the familiar, the Satanic King, who is a demon. Then the familiar grinned, knowing full well that a full summoning was not possible. He went back to how he used to be. This was the Demon King in his current form. This really doesn't bother him because, even with his limited power, it was sufficient to eliminate every angel. Following the introduction, Dex simply gazed at his new acquaintance. Satan was overly modest. His surprised look came from not expecting his new form to look like this. After that, he focused on Dex. He was informed of what actually transpired by RMC. He informed Satan that he had earned the prize. He was informed by the system that Satan had become his familiar. Satan was